The hosts feel it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We are about to unfold the story of Frankenstein, a man of science who sought to create a man after his own image without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with the two great mysteries of creation, life and death. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel that you do not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to. Well, we've warned you. Hello, and welcome once again to the Frankencast. I'm the mad scientist, Anthony Bowman. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm joined as always by...
the doctor that's just trying to do his fucking job, that is Eric Velasquez. My pronouns are also he, him. I got this medical degree. I just did some malpractice. Come on, I'm just trying to do some surgeries. That's all.
Had to pick one of the few, non-terrible characters in this.
Looks like him. He's pretty awful, too. But
yeah, I guess, relatively speaking,
right.
he's better than most in this, but compared to your average person, not great.
Right, yeah. No one is... the only person in this that is good, I'm going to say, is probably Daisy.
Yeah.
And she gets one of the worst fates.
Yeah, her whole, that poor girl. Everything in the entire movie, I just felt bad for her.
Oh, yeah. So let's go ahead, and before we move too far into this, content warning, everything. Mm-hmm. If you're squeamish about anything, just go ahead and bow out. We're cool with that. We understand.
Yeah, this is everything we said last time, plus some other stuff that...
hardcore racism, so much of that. Mm-hmm. Essay on another level.
Yeah.
So many levels. Yeah. Death score, all that stuff.
Right, yeah. And before we just get into the whole thing, so I think... just as if you're kind of curious and just want a little I feel like this movie is a scathing sort of indictment on carceral justice and the
in America,
and the for-profit prison industrial complex, which I think is a great message that. Mm-hmm. But if you bury
handled in the worst way,
if you bury that in the most offensive movie, I don't think many people are gonna get that out of it, because most people aren't even going to watch this, and the people who are willing to watch it, the percentage of those people who are likely to get that subtext is very small.
More than likely.
Yeah. So it's
Also, I need to ask you: did I prepare you enough, or do you feel that I didn't prepare you? Because I was telling you about this is the worst one.
Yeah. I mean, I was still
right?
I mean, just a few minutes into it, I was like, oh my God, this is going to be rough. And usually, I usually watch these a few days before we're going to record and just kind of take notes and give myself time to think about it. Mm-hmm. I have put this off. I just finally watched this last night, and that's even after, behind the curtain here, we took a week off that you all won't notice, but I even had more time and still put this off until the last minute.
Yeah. And I don't know if the jar of how do I want to say it? Let's just say the jar. I've told Anthony about the jar. Mm-hmm. And it's I don't know, Anthony. Did I do the jar justice?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I was also thinking about, so this is the first time I watched this, of course. Mm-hmm. How did you feel knowing, you'd already seen this and you were going to have to watch it again?
So do you know, honestly, I forgot how bad some of it was, which is saying something. The just sheer audacious use of slurs slapped me in the face.
Yeah.
So, other than that, it was I know I'm walking into a train wreck. My fate's sealed. I'm just walking into it.
Yeah. All right. I guess that's all
started, I guess.
So of course we're talking about Human Centipede 3.
Final sequence. Thank God. I don't know where they could go from here.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, I don't...
Tom's like, stop.
And so this one, again, kind of, the second one starts with, like, the ending of the first one. And this kind of plays the same gag on us again, where, like, we've got Martin in the warehouse with, the dead 10-person centipede, and he walks out, and we see...
Real quick, like, am I imagining something, or was Lindsay breathing, like, at the end of this one?
Yeah, and because she's like in part 2, it ends with you hear a baby crying,
right?
Because we talked about, is that the baby in the car, or is it Martin's inner child, or But in this version, you hear like a woman crying instead, like it's not the baby. Right. So it's been like slightly re-edited.
Maybe Lindsay somewhat survives, but
yeah, and there's also something where like. So Martin walks off camera, you have like the centipede laying there, then you get credits, then you see Martin watching the credits.
But it's not Martin.
Well, and then there's the credits again.
Right,
so like
right.
Which I guess that is in part 2, Martin is watching the part 1 again at the very end. So for a second I was like, is this like a weird double fake out thing? But yeah, no. So then once we get out of that, we've got Dieter Laser again.
As William Boss.
Yeah, not...
American name, so American.
Yeah. Bill Boss. So he's watching part 2 while his assistant, who's played by the actor who played Martin,
playing Dwight Butler.
Yeah, he's like kind of standing over his shoulder, like excitedly showing his boss this movie.
Right, just like Martin, our good boy Martin.
So yeah, Dieter Laser is like very different character now. He's wearing a cowboy hat. He's chomping on this big cigar. He's like in an office that we'll quickly realize is like he's like the warden of a prison.
I wonder if after this movie, if he had to have like a massive dental bill, because he's chewing the fuck out of the scenery. Okay.
Yeah, he sure is.
Yeah.
Like he was over the top in 1, but he's like next level in this one. And I knew that this one had Hyder and Martin back as different characters, and I was like, I don't know how they're gonna pull that off and like be believably different characters, but they do manage that pretty well.
Right.
Martin, now he's talking. He's got a little like Hitler mustache.
Right.
And
somewhat a less horrible person, less gross.
Yeah. He's sadder.
Yeah.
I think like Dieter Laser is playing a worse character, and Dwight is a slightly less terrible character than Martin. But yeah, so he's super excited about the movie, which like I could not imagine going to my boss and being like, here, watch Human Centipede.
Right, this is going to be our business plan for the next however many years.
Yeah. But yeah, boss is not into it. Like he thinks it's gross and ridiculous. Yeah. B-movie trash. And then we see that off frame, he's having his toenails clipped by his secretary, played by adult film actress Brie Olson.
Playing Daisy. Or
Daisy that you mentioned
as they like to call her. Well, should we even say that? I don't know.
Did they ever call her Daisy, or is that just in the credits?
Dwight mainly calls her Daisy.
Okay. Yeah, because most of it is just Boss using various slurs to describe her.
Mostly involving female anatomy.
Yeah, or like sex worker terminology, slurs of that nature. But she kind of stands up for Dwight and is like, I liked the movie. I thought it was pretty good.
Well, that's when old Bill decides to pull a 45 on us and grabs her.
Yeah, so he's telling her like, you're not allowed to have an opinion. I don't know what what you're it's just misogynist bullshit. But he's also he's just fingering her like while he's saying this, and she's just kind of standing there afraid, and Dwight is standing there watching all this play out. And then the boss is like, go, he sends her out. I can't remember, he tells her to go do something, like fill out some paperwork or something,
right, and be grateful because she gets to suck him dry, I think is what he said. Something close to that. And again, going back to the content warning, like that's the thing is like,
I get that he's supposed to be awful. You know, there's that, like, we've talked before about, like, how media literacy's kind of gone downhill. Like, if you go on Twitter, people talking about movies, like, I saw something where it was like, I watched The Shining, and, you know, Jack Torrance is really problematic. And it's like, well, yeah, of course he is. Right. Like, he's a bad guy. We're supposed to hate him. Like, you know, like, but this is next level shit. Like, obviously we're supposed to hate Boss, but, like, the level of just terrible stuff that he says and does in this movie is just, it's, you know, it's not, usually you don't think, like, it's an endorsement if, like, a writer creates a bad character, but this is so bad that it's hard not to, like, give Tom Six a little bit of a side eye here. Right? in what he's, like, willing to even just write, you know?
Like, Tom, do we need to investigate you, buddy?
Yeah.
Have you done some really bad shit? Because I believe that you might have. Or at least you've been around bad people.
Right. Yeah. And so at that point, I think Boss gets a phone call. Something bad's happening in the prison, so him and Dwight go out into the, you know, onto the floor to figure out what's going on.
Right. They call it a Code 6 and Cell Block 4. So
as they go through, as they're walking, Dwight is like, you know, the prison's not doing well. I've been looking at the stats.
We have the highest turnover, highest medical bills, haul of every... Yeah, his solution.
Yeah, and if you're paying attention at all, you know what his solution is, but it's kind of a running gag where, like, he never gets to say what his solution is until much further in the movie. Like,
right, but also the German guy says his final solution, so...
Yep. Yeah.
Don't like it.
Boss stops at, like, one cell and starts talking to one of the... and, you know, like, I think, you know, we tend to try to, like, you know, when there are common terms used that are not, you know, necessarily like, usually if you talk about somebody in prison, the polite, you know, you should say incarcerated person and not, like, take away their humanity. But this movie is about prisoners and inmates. They're not, you know, they're not humanized in the least here. You know, intentionally so, but
they're quite honestly just body parts.
And, you know, so Boss and this inmate are sort of yelling at each other through the bars.
So they call this guy 297, but, like, they interchange him with the quote unquote Native American guy that I'm pretty sure is played by an Italian. I need to go back and check.
Yeah, so this guy's, like, tattooed, and he's a very, like, stereotype of, like, you know, the prison, like, gang member. Right. They basically, like, he's just threatening to assault Boss. Like, you'll find, like, threats of rape are sort of like a greeting in this movie. Like, anytime two characters interact, they're gonna threaten each other in that way. But of course, Boss is in control here, so he's not, you know, not bothered by it, and just kind of, like, you know, threatens right back, and then just continues down the hallway where they bump into the prison doctor who is helping a stabbed guard.
Right.
Boss is like, he's like, just a reminder, we've got an appointment in an hour for my annual checkup. Right. And the doctor's like, I'm helping a guy who's stabbed, and he's like, in 1 hour, my appointment. And so, like we needed more explanation that Boss is just the worst.
Well, he's trying to treat it like it's a military, and the doctor is his, like, personal medic, and it's like, well, he's supposed to make sure people live, you know?
Right.
Come on. Yeah. Then we get introduced to one of my favorite parts of the movie, and also arguably one of the least problematic. Tommy Lister, if you've seen Friday and know how amazing that movie is, apparently he's inmate 178. I don't think they ever address him as that.
So, and he's the stabbed, or the stabber.
Stabby, yeah.
Yeah, he's the one who stabbed the guard. Several guards are holding him down.
Right, and of course, Bill does the most reasonable thing and decides he's just going to break his fucking elbow, or break his arm at the elbow.
Yeah. Before he breaks his arm, though, he asks Dwight which hand the inmate uses to masturbate with.
He doesn't say it in those nicer terms, though. I wish he did.
Yeah. And, so... you know, Dwight looks at his paperwork and is like, looks like he's right-handed, so that's the hand he decides to or that arm he decides to break. But yeah, this is the first of several instances of the N-word being used. Boss uses to describe this particular inmate. And then after breaking the guy's arm, the guards lead him away, and he's kind of like yelling at Boss, like, fuck you, I'll get you back for this. And Boss just starts firing his gun into the walls and the ceiling and yelling that he demands respect. Like, right. He's just the smallest little man trying so hard to command respect and attention.
Yeah, so clearly he is the picture of mental health.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Then we just cut back to the office where Dwight and Boss share an office. They have like desks that are kind of like perpendicular to each other. And they're all sweating. Like I don't know if they ever say, but it feels like it's like Texas or something. It's just like a hot desert climate.
It absolutely has to be, right? Mm-hmm. With all the guns going around.
Oh, and they do say like the George H.W. Bush Memorial Prison or whatever. So yeah, that seems like a Texas thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all just like hot and sweating. They're sitting in front of fans.
Yeah, the air conditioning has gone out apparently.
Mm-hmm. And like, yeah, Boss is kind of complaining that like he's losing his mind because of the heat.
Mm-hmm. Which I wish that were only the case.
And we also get a bit here, like Dwight is sort of like watching Daisy. Because she's kind of like the secretary. She's like outside of their office.
Right, in her own little office.
Yeah, and she like kind of like makes a face and gets up and closes the door.
Right.
And it kind of goes back and forth. I can't tell if Daisy likes Dwight or not.
Well, I'm going to say she doesn't, but he definitely likes her, and maybe he's been nice to her. And it's like, if I have no idea. This is a fucking weird movie. I don't know why I'm trying to justify anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's at least more kind to her than Boss is.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, once she shuts the door, Boss starts talking about like, I think the solution that we need is we need to start torturing more.
Right.
That will fix everything.
Go to the Middle Ages tactics, right?
Yeah, and Dwight's like, I don't think that will help with recidivism. Like, people are going to still, he has all the stats, like the percentage of people who go back to jail after being let out.
Right. And we also learned that Bill has a blood pressure issue. I think he says he has was it 210 over 160? Shouldn't he be dead?
I guess this one's not promising that 100% medically
accurate. Right.
But then Daisy comes in. She's got a package, and at first, Boss is like, "Get out of here! I don't want it." And then he's like, "Oh wait, no, I know what that is. Yeah, go ahead and bring that to me."
Because the way she's walking away from him, he knows what it is.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, he sends her out before he opens the package and again says some horrible shit to her as she's leaving.
Yep.
Yeah, again, just sexually harassing her.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, at this point, I was just like, why is she still here? Eventually, we'll find out. But, like, she's putting up with a lot of terrible shit, and it just feels like, I mean, I know that there are a lot of women who get stuck in terrible situations and can't get out of them for various reasons.
Right.
And this is definitely a prime example of that.
Yeah, I mean, you would hope that she would be like, oh, I have so much mounting evidence, but almost certainly in this situation, Dwight would probably be like, I sit right next to this guy, none of that ever happened, and then they would sweep it under the rug.
Yeah.
Because they're awful.
So once she leaves the room, he opens up the package and pulls out the jar that you mentioned earlier.
What's in that jar, Anthony? Do we want to talk about it?
So he says that this is something eaten by like tribal chiefs in Africa to gain incredible strength,
Probably
which already feels
horrible. Yeah, this is a horrible practice, probably started by a racist.
Mm-hmm. And so, the jar contains dried clitorises from, female circumcision / genital mutilation, which that is definitely a real thing. I don't know if this, like, eating them for power is a real thing. I'm not going to research it because I don't want to know. And
we don't care.
Yeah, it's awful. The practice in general is awful, and if it's in any way being used in this way, that's just icing on the cake of how terrible it is.
Yeah. We condemn this.
100%, yeah.
100% condemned, medically condemned.
But then he's interrupted by another phone call, which ends up being like someone talking over the phone that's like, "We're coming to get you, boss. Like, we're, when we get to you, we're going to torture you." And I think there's more rape threats there or whatever.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And boss immediately hangs up, panics.
Loses his shit.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, this is the big one. It's coming. He slams the door so that Daisy can't come in.
Right. What an asshole, by the way. And she's like, hey, let me in.
Yeah, she's like, what's happening? What's going on? And he crawls up under his desk to hide.
Loads his gun.
Yeah, and then while all this is going on, Dwight just picks up the phone and basically star 69's back to the number and talks to a guard who's like, sorry, one of the inmates used his monthly call to friends and family to
just fuck with the...
Yeah, but it's a false alarm. He's back in his cell. Nothing's happening.
Well, also, it's time for your physical, Bill.
Yeah, so he's talking to the doctor, and the doctor's like, you're very stressed. You've got terrible blood pressure. I'm noticing you've got a little bit of a heart murmur. You are not in good shape.
And of course, what's Bill's response? Stress is for pussies. I don't know if you know this, Bill, but stress is for everyone. Mm-hmm. It is rated E for everyone.
Which is the only thing in this movie that you can say that about.
That's the only thing, yeah.
And so not only is he not accepting that he could even be stressed, but he demands that the doctor give him some good news and give him a clean bill of health. And so he physically threatens the doctor to say he's healthy. Right. Which again sounds like something that good old President 45 would have done.
No shit. Okay, well then we turn back. I'm sorry, I was incorrect. The one that I thought they kept referring to as 297 is 346, a Native American who actually is played by a Native American actor. So I guess good on this movie for that.
Yeah.
Jay Tavares. Or Tavares.
So then, we get to him. Boss is, after he's gotten his clean bill of health, it's time to torture this particular inmate. I don't know why. We never really... He's not one that we've really had a run-in with yet.
Well, he passing Bill in the hall, he did call Bill a Nazi, but Bill also said a lot of shit about him, so... I think they're even in that regard.
Yeah. So he is strapped down to a table. Boss is waving a towel around, and some guards come in with buckets of water. So this is going to be some waterboarding. But then Boss is mad because they brought room temperature water instead of boiling water, which is what he wanted.
Yeah. Got to put that extra oomph on there. By the way, this is 2015. I feel like most of that shit was pretty much resolved by 2011. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I don't think... I would hope so. Waterboarding is definitely not a thing that's been in the news in a while, so right. I would hope that it's because it's gone and not being swept under the rug.
Well... You just said that. Okay. You said the answer already. Damn it. Why am I naive? All right.
So he sends the guards out to get boiling water. Daisy comes in and is like, oh, just a reminder, the governor's on his way. He should be here in about a half an hour. Also, there's an execution tonight. Are you going to be attending? And, in most cases, you would think this kind of warden who has this disdain for his, inmates would be like, yeah, I can't wait to watch a execution. But no, executions are too tame.
Well, that's because apparently they're life affirming and gentle with fucking lethal injection. Holy shit.
Yeah, he's not into that weak injection stuff. He likes the hardcore stuff. So no, he's not going to waste his time with a boring injection or lethal injection. He's just
sent Dwight to watch on his behalf.
Yeah. So she leaves, and even though he knows that the governor is going to be here in a half an hour, he's like, well, I've got a half an hour. I can still waterboard this guy. So the guards show back up with the boiling water. He puts the towel over his face.
Oh, by the way, whenever he dismisses Daisy, because let's not be gentle about it, that's all he ever does. He does encourage her to encourage the governor to sexually harass her so that they can sue him for funds. This is a nice guy. This is a great guy. Love it.
Yeah. And she's like, I'll try my best.
Right.
So then Boss pours boiling water all over this inmate's face, and the waterboard towel is kind of a blessing here that we, I think it's also a special effects trick to make it a little easier to go from regular face to, damaged by boiling water. Yeah. We just get a lot of screaming, and then he pulls the towel off, which is all stuck to his face because, boiling water. And yeah, he's looking really rough after that, as you would imagine.
Yeah.
Cut to the governor arriving. Daisy tries, she kind of I think she unbuttons a button on her top and kind of sticks her chest out a little bit, tries to get some attention from the governor.
But this governor is Eric fucking Roberts, okay? like what, half brother of Julia Roberts, I think.
Yeah, and like in so many, he's one of those that guy actors. He's just did like a ton of great stuff. He seems very out of place in this.
I mean, he adds a level of class this movie does not deserve.
Absolutely.
For sure. And I love how when she sticks her chest out to him, the only thing he does is just lightly tap her on the nose, like he boops her snoot. Like,
yeah. Yeah, either he's not interested or he's smart enough to know what's going on here and is, not interested for that reason.
Yeah.
And so, he comes into Boss's office and sits down, and Boss pulls out his cigars. I think they're Dominican.
These are the finest Dominican cigars. But the governor, he has a problem with that. He only smokes Cuban cigars.
Mm-hmm. And that leads to this big argument where Boss doesn't do the Cuban thing because that's some commie shit. Like
right. He's a patriot, this German American.
Yeah. And like, I think, is this where he like ends up hugging the flag at some point? While
he hugs it, but also just to add that little bit of mwah, he starts dabbing his forehead with it. So it's like, I love this flag that I'm going to also just like,
wipe my sweat on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Once again, this is 45's movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's why I hate it. No.
After they argue about that, the governor is like, I've looked at your statistics. Things aren't going well here. You all are hemorrhaging money. Mm-hmm. You've got 2 weeks to turn things around or you're fired.
Right. Well, Bill's like, no. It's all Dwight's fault. All those problems are Dwight's fault.
Mm-hmm. So then the governor just leaves, and immediately Boss just like throws a temper tantrum. Like he's just yelling and throwing things and just very mad.
I think one of the few things we could probably say without getting like in a lot of shit that comes from this movie is he calls him a imbecile communist zombie cunt.
Right.
What is that saying? That I'm like, I'm fine. I think this is the thing we can go with.
Yeah, when like. I feel like, a word that most people just say, the C word, because they don't like, that's one of the good words in this movie, or lesser bad words.
To be fair, he uses it in a unisex way, so I think it's fine, right?
Yeah. Yeah, he's using it in the European style.
Okay, I like that.
And so to kind of like, I guess, let off some anger, he demands that all of the prisoners be sent out into the yard. And, Dwight's like, it's too hot. We can't send them out there right now. And he's like, no, I don't care. Fuck it. Send them out in the heat.
We're going to castrate all of them.
Yeah. So he gets up in the guard tower crow's nest and is yelling over a megaphone, yelling to all the inmates that he's going to castrate them all.
I don't know, like, inmate mentality or, incarcerated individual mentality. I feel like I would riot. If this is going to happen to me, this is me personally. I'm like, I'm out.
Yeah. Yeah, like I might as well,
take a bullet, right?
Yeah. But they just stand there and chant. And so the prisoners here, they have a chant that they use anytime that they're like angry or celebrating or pretty much anything. And that chant is death rape.
Right.
So... Yeah, so that's what they're yelling. Boss chooses our inmate from the beginning, the first guy that he kind of like gets in the argument with. I forget his number.
297.
297. Okay, so yeah, this is the tattooed like kind of gang member looking guy.
I think they nickname him Tattoo Wasp. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah.
If that's something I shouldn't be saying, let me know. But
yeah, I don't.
It feels bad.
But so he's selected as the first inmate for the castration program.
Bill's casually using his blowtorch to warm up his knife, his little pocket knife. Not a surgical knife, not a scalpel.
No. The prisoner's still trying to like kind of act tough. Like he thinks it's a threat, like that there's no way they're going to actually do this.
Right.
Then sure enough, he does it, and we see it, and it's pretty gruesome. Mm-hmm. These movies, especially 2 and 3, are not ones to shy away from like really graphic gore, but this is testicles being removed with a knife, and it's unpleasant.
Like, and the thing is, you get the sack, so it's like, unfortunate.
Yeah, so you get him opening it and then cutting him out, and is like hands them to, I think, one of the guards, and is like, I want you to fry these up. This is going to be my lunch today.
Yeah. But go ahead and stitch 297 up. That'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Yeah, take him to the med bay or whatever they call it, the infirmary. And so then we just cut to, back in Boss's office. He's sitting at his desk, spread-legged, because Daisy is on her knees in front of him.
Right. And by the way, I do like that Dwight is sitting over in the corner, and he I guess he's picking up residual removed testicle smell or something, because he's kind of like sniffing at his fingers. And it's like, he's repulsed by it. Yeah.
And Daisy looks up and is like, can you send Dwight out at least? I don't like doing this in front of him.
Right. But Bill's like, nah, he's like my pet. He can stay in rooms.
Yeah. So, yeah, he just pushes her back down, and she continues, and we get lots of kind of sloppy sounds, they're really making sure you know what's going on here.
And Dwight's just trying to do some work while Bill orgasms.
And he's angrily stamping things, because he's, as we kind of alluded, he actually likes Daisy. He cares about her and is having to watch this horrible display. And then we also finally get the reason why Daisy is willing to put up with all of this, which is that Boss, I guess, illegally let her father out of prison and is now kind of blackmailing her with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, if this is Texas, it would make sense, because, laws are kind of just a suggestion sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, so, she's got to kind of protect her father, because he might be taken back to prison if anybody knows what's going on. So she'll put herself through this terrible mistreatment.
Yeah. So after everything, though, she wants some of this candy that Bill has on his desk to take away the awful taste in her mouth.
And that's the jar.
The jar.
Boss is like, sure, yeah, go ahead. And Dwight's like, no.
Don't do it. And Boss is like, shut up. Let her do it. I want to see how this turns out.
Yeah, so she eats one and is like, that's salty. That's not what I expected at all.
Yeah, there's a reason.
Yeah. So then she leaves, and in come the guards with a plate on it with a little, silver cover over it. And, that's the testicles that is going to be Boss's lunch.
Okay. I feel like Dieter Laser was like, listen, I can do a lot for my craft, but eating actual testicles is not it. So it's clearly just hamburger wadded up into testicle-shaped balls.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't do some kind of animal testicles or something.
Well, that's what they had to remove, right? It probably was bull or pig testicles.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah.
So while he's eating, he is reading the newspaper. There's an article about the previous night's execution, and he's kind of just disgusted that that's what they're in the news for. And he's like, once my castration solution takes off, that's when we'll really get the attention that we should.
Right. That'll be our final solution. Quab, bop, 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 bop.
Yeah, and again, Dwight's like, I don't think castration's the thing. I've got a better plan. I know what to do. And he's just like, no, I don't have time for that. I'm not listening to your...
Why are these two awful fucking movies back on my desk, Dwight?
Right. And so then he heads to the infirmary to check up on the prisoners. We get all the various prisoners who he's done terrible things to in the movie so far. We've got the guy with the broken arm, who now gets a broken hand in addition. And then we also get the waterboarded guy whose face looks even worse now. It's it's started to heal a little bit, so it's just puffy and red. And I think there's, because he was Native American, so we get some red man type jokes about the fact that his face is literally red now from all the horrible trauma.
I do appreciate the fact, though, that we have a Jewish prisoner who actually stands up, screams at Bill, and at this point Bill's like, point taken, and doesn't do anything. It's oh, thank God. Okay. By the way, let's say we know he's Jewish because he's wearing a yarmulke. That's, shorthand.
And so we get to the last prisoner, who is, of course, our castrated guy. Boss seems to, like, it's not just that he wants to torture people. He thinks that castrating these people will make them calmer and more tame and docile. So when he gets there, the guy immediately just starts, like, threatening him, yelling at him, and he's like...
he literally asks him if he's feeling... He says, are you feeling submissive? But I had to write down feeling submissive and breedable. Sorry. I'm not above those kind of jokes. I apologize. But yeah, as you said, he is not. He does not feel either way.
Yeah, I think he threatens to pull a Martin and use some barbed wire to get his revenge on Boss whenever he heals up.
Oh, also we learned that the doctor, Dr. Jones apparently, this is the only facility in which he is allowed to practice medicine because they're the only one that would hire him.
Yeah, he lost his medical license at some point, and Boss doesn't care. Yeah. He can use that to his advantage. So, and then so it's a mutual assured kind of thing where, like, the doctor's kind of stuck. It's the only job he can get. Right. So he kind of has to do whatever terrible shit Boss wants him to do.
Yeah.
Boss is obviously really angry that his castration plan didn't work, so he chokes this prisoner to death, and then the doctor's like, I think I can still save him, and shocks him back to life.
Right. And then Bill's like, good, I want to kill him twice.
Yeah. So he chokes him out again and, leaves him for dead.
We get another time where Dwight's like, listen, watch the movies. They're a really good idea.
Oh, he tries to get the doctor to watch them too. And the doctor's like, oh, I've seen those. They're pretty good.
Yeah. And, so the next morning, I guess, Bill then comes with his cirrhosis whiskey, which that's kind of funny. And an AR-15, like a true American.
Yeah, he's like absolutely drunk first thing in the morning, assault rifle in hand, and he's like, all right, nothing's working. I'm going to just kill all the prisoners and kill all the guards, and then I'm going to kill you, Dwight, and then I'll kill myself.
Right. That's a little melodramatic.
Yeah. And Dwight's like, before you do all that, why don't you just listen to my plan? Maybe it'll work. And he's like, all right, fine. What's your big plan? Of course, as you might have guessed, his plan is to make one giant human centipede with all of the prisoners.
Yep, and to get his point across, he's even made an appointment with Tom Six because, as previously stated, it is 100% medically accurate.
Yeah, so they're hiring him as a consultant to help with the process.
Right. I do appreciate that Tom Six actually has enough like self-awareness to make the joke that this is coming out of Bill's mouth, that Tom Six is still in his potty stage.
Yeah, he's like, I hate this, he doesn't like the idea, and he's like, I don't want to have anything to do with this juvenile director with his poo-poo fetish.
Accurate.
Yeah, so he fires Dwight, and Dwight leaves. Boss starts smashing the empty whiskey bottle in his trash can and starts yelling, I hate human beings, which is a nice callback to the first Human Centipede.
Well, as Dwight's walking out, what is it that he hands Daisy? Is it a handkerchief or is it her underwear?
I don't know. He did hand her something, but I didn't clock what it was.
Okay, we'll just leave it there. It could be either one. Let us know.
And then we just cut to Boss back in the guard tower with his megaphone. And
spews so much racism. Just the most.
Every single racial slur you can possibly imagine. Basically, any word that if you were going to type it in social media, you would likely use a star somewhere in the middle of it.
It's just all stars.
He says all of them. And it goes on, like, it goes on.
Yeah, even that one.
Yeah. It's just like, again, I get that we're supposed to hate Boss, but like writing all of this down and then Dieter Laser saying it all just is like, I couldn't, like, you have like,
listen, if I'm on set, I'm giving them all side eye. Mm-hmm. I'm like, you guys.
Like, you have like Django Unchained, and like, Leonardo DiCaprio's character says the N-word a couple times, and it's like, that makes sense in the context of this. It doesn't feel gratuitous. This feels gratuitous. Like, it just, there's no real reason. We know Boss is terrible. We don't need more, evidence.
Right. But because we have to have a visual joke, though, he's apparently, it's proving that Boss is also a coward in that he's literally saying it to no one of the yard below. No
the camera like pans around. Yeah, the whole prison yard's empty. And then we see him, Boss, now in the mess hall cafeteria area or whatever, and all of the inmates are just there all of a sudden. They just kind of start creeping in from all different directions, and there's no guards around. Boss instantly loses all of his bravado. He immediately just starts begging for mercy and just whining. Let him go. Yeah, like, you just see how small this man is and how tenuous his, like, masculinity is. Like, he's, if he's not yelling constantly, he's just going to become, like, you know, like, that's the only way that he can, like, maintain any sort of semblance of looking strong and powerful.
Right. Don't hurt me. It's my heart. I have diabetes. Oh. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the prisoners all hold him down, and our, you know, castrated prisoner decides to finally get his revenge.
And they all call out for the death rate.
And which in this case involves shivving Boss in the kidneys and then using that orifice instead of, you know, a previously existing one.
To be fair, it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, right?
Yeah. This feels pretty, you know, it's cathartic.
If only.
Yeah. It turns out that this is a nightmare that Boss then wakes up from. Yeah. He wakes up, Daisy comes in and is like, you know, Mr. Tom Six is arriving. Yeah. He's like, what? I thought we weren't going to do that. And then Dwight comes strolling in and he's like, I'm back. And like, just hear me out. Listen to what Tom's got to say. If you don't like the plan, I will quit myself. We can part ways, but I think you're really going to want to hear this.
So give it a chance. So then we have Tom Six walking in, and of course, because Tom Six is self-aware, but not too self-aware, Daisy's like, oh, you're so even more handsome in real life.
Yeah, can I have your autograph?
Yeah.
And this is actually Tom Six. Yeah, it's really him. Then Dwight fanboys at him a bunch, and I was just like, it's got to be really surreal to write somebody being your biggest fan, like writing down somebody saying a bunch of great stuff about you. Like, I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, no, I would be like, no, I have too much modesty for that. I'd be like, no, this is bullshit. Throw it away.
Yeah. But they also bring in the doctor who looks over, you know, they talk about that Tom Six had previously had an advisor confirm that everything was medically accurate.
Right. I like how he reiterates that, though. He's like, there was a doctor in Amsterdam said this was 100% medically accurate. And, of course, I do appreciate that Dr. Jones here is like, I mean, it is medically accurate. It's doable. But we're going to need a lot of stuff to make it work.
Yeah, he points out that, like, it could pass through the digestive system, but people further down are not going to get enough nutrients. We're going to have to inject them with vitamins and minerals, and, you know, we're going to have to do extra stuff. It's not going to be one organism thriving just from feeding one end. Like, that's not possible. But other than that, yeah, this the notes you've got here, they're feasible. We could theoretically do this.
Right, and Dwight is now the voice of reason, quote unquote. Maybe.
Yeah.
But he's like, okay, so here's the deal. Because he's been thinking about this a lot. Way too much.
Yeah.
He's like, we can't actually leave these people with, like, cut up ligaments or facial scars like they would actually have. Some of these people are going to go home. So what we do is we introduce a lot of leather straps. There's got to be a bit so that one guy doesn't bite into the other guy's butthole. He just thought about this way too much.
Yeah, rather than removing the teeth and everything, they just bite onto, basically, I think it's like a hollow butt plug kind of thing.
Yeah, it's basically, donut/bit. But and then he's also like, all right, and also instead of cutting their ligaments, we're just going to give them injections in their joints where they can't stand up.
Yeah, so eventually, when people are up for parole, they can be removed from the centipede and sent back. But the punishment is still so horrific that they won't want to come back. So they will become model citizens. And even people out in the world, once they learn about how horrible this is, no one's going to want to go to prison. So it's going to cut down on crime.
Yeah, I can't see any way this could possibly go incredibly wrong.
Right. Tom Six loves these innovations. He thinks Dwight's onto something here, and he's like, you know, you can have my idea. I won't, like, demand copyright payments or whatever. All I want is I want to watch one of the surgeries. I want to see this happen.
Right. Which, that's kind of fucked up, but okay.
Then Boss is like, well, before we do this, let's make all the prisoners watch the 2 movies.
Right.
And Dwight's like, that's a bad idea. They're going to riot. Like, we don't want them to know what's happening until it's already happened.
Phil's like, no. This is great. We're going to show them all the movies. Then at the very end, I'm going to come in and tell them what we're going to do to them.
Yeah. Which, of course, that's exactly what happens. It's really great because we get the prisoners watching, and they're all just horrified and disgusted. Like, they're like, this is trash. This is filth.
Right. I feel like this is stuff the critics have actually said about the first 2 movies, and he just put it into the mouths of the prisoners.
Yeah, because there's one person even says something like, these kind of movies should be banned. Like, we don't want people to get ideas from this.
Right.
Then Boss comes out and tells them that that he's going to do this to them.
Well, he doesn't just come out. He comes out with another AR-15 and just fires it, like, into the air to get their attention.
Yeah, but so as soon as he gives them the news, they all riot. As like you said earlier, it's like you get to a certain point where you're just like, fuck it, like I'm not gonna deal with it.
What are you gonna do? Sew my mouth to another guy's ass?
Yeah. Boss and Dwight
run off like little bitches. It's amazing.
Yeah, immediately cower, even though he's got the AR-15. They again barricade themselves in the office, throwing Daisy out
literally by her face.
Mm-hmm. So they're locked in the office, and Boss is trying to like get out a window while Dwight is calling in a SWAT team to come save them.
Yeah, and unfortunately, what will happen if a attractive young lady is in a prison with rioting prisoners? I don't need to say anymore.
Yeah, thankfully, of all of the stuff in this movie, they don't dwell on this too hard. Like, we mostly see like her getting like punched and like physically attacked, but there's definitely the implication that more is happening to her that we don't see.
Yeah. So there's to this movie's credit. It takes it easy on that.
Yeah, and like considering that they have hired a porn star to play this role, I kept thinking like we're gonna get something really horrible with her later because she's gonna be willing to do whatever kind of nudity they want. But surprisingly, surprisingly they never go that far with her. Thankfully. Well,
and also because Dwight is a boss. He decides to down some of the jar, and he's going to take some of those prisoners out with him.
Yeah, he's going to get superpowers, his strength. And, Boss manages to get out the window and, like, starts crawling away like a little bitch. But then the SWAT team arrives. They manage to save Daisy before... I feel like they probably would have killed her eventually. But she lives.
Arguably, would that have been better?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what she has. I mean, even before this happened, her life was not a great situation. Just really, really terrible for her. Like we said earlier, she definitely gets the worst of everything in this movie. The SWAT team has everything under control. They go find Boss, who's now laying under a tree out in the prison yard area and is crying about how injured he is while Dwight's trying to tell him that like Daisy is in bad shape. Yeah. And Boss does not care because he doesn't care about anybody but himself. Now that everything's under control, the prisoners are all locked up. He's ready to go forward with the Human Centipede plan.
Right. So the next morning, he's saying, he just makes a note about the Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, I don't know what that...
I mean, I guess, it has something to do with mental issues in prisons, but I feel like you shouldn't be calling a classier movie like that when you're in this movie.
Yeah, right. So he just walks down the hall, just sort of gleefully shooting prisoners in their cells who can't get away.
But he also assures them these are just sedative darts, so you're fine.
Yeah. So they all get tranked. The guards are all dragging them out, and Boss is just like standing in the hallway, just like dancing gleefully about what's getting ready to happen.
Basically describing the human centipeding process.
Yeah, he's super excited. He hated this at first, but now he is fully on board with this idea.
And I do like that Dwight gets a little bit of something here, because he's also walking around smoking the stogie, like a boss. Pardon the pun.
Yeah, Dwight's feeling good about himself that this plan is going forward, that everybody likes his idea.
But he has noticed a hitch in the plan. What do we do about the prisoners who get death row? He says life, but we all know that life isn't always really life in prison. Mm-hmm. So, but then he's like, yeah, what do we do with the death row inmates?
Boss is like, I think I've got an idea for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he does. He has an idea.
Yeah. And then we get this scene where Dwight is holding up a script on a clipboard that he has written, and Boss is reading it through a megaphone to all of the prisoners, and like he can't pronounce a lot of the words,
right?
And Dwight keeps having to like whisper them to him. It's a pretty funny bit. The doctor comes over and is like, so we're starting the process, but I realize we've got a couple odd cases that I'm not sure how we should handle them. Why don't I show you what's going on and you tell me what to do? So the first one is a guy with Crohn's disease, and you know,
if you've ever suffered it or know someone who has.
Yeah, and you know, of course, Boss is like, I don't know what that means. I don't care.
Right.
And the doctor's like, well, basically, he's got diarrhea all the time. Like,
immediately, Boss is like, I know the guy he's going on his back end.
yeah, he's not worried. He's like, yep, that's perfect. We'll put that guy on. It's great. That's the castrated guy.
Yeah.
Then he keeps walking, and the next guy he's got a colostomy bag.
Hey, the guy with the stoma, doesn't he look a little familiar?
I know, I did not.
You don't think he should run for class president?
Is that Pedro?
That's Pedro, baby!
What?
Right?
I definitely did not clock that at all.
Carlos Ramirez, baby.
That's hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, he's showing him this colostomy bag, so it's not going to work.
He's like, you can't put me there. I can't poop. My pooper is sewn shut.
Yeah. And Boss is like, he's not faking it, right? And he yanks the bag off, and you see the hole there and everything. And like, nope, it's true. Real. He really has this situation. And he's like, well, if he's not going to work. And so Boss just takes his gun out, inserts it into the colostomy hole, and just fires a bunch, killing this guy. And then he hands the gun to Dwight and is like, clean this, disinfect it.
If there's any caca on here, you're going to be sucking a bullet.
Yeah. So yep, just super gross. And then
by the way, where are the guards of this one's like, dude, you're murdering people. This is highly illegal.
Yeah. This guy possibly has a family. People are gonna notice that he's never released.
Yeah, he was just murdered.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's terrible.
This is the U.S. justice system. Who am I kidding?
Yeah, and I mean, that's kind of what I mentioned at the beginning. Is like some of this kind of stuff happens. It does, like probably not in this particular way, but there's things where prisoners die mysteriously. Not even prisoners, but like people in jails for like overnight things that are going to be bailed out.
I've got a story for that, but I don't think we need to tell it here. We'll talk about that after the show.
Yeah, I mean, there's, people mysteriously die, or like an inmate killed another inmate, and it's like, did they? I mean, sometimes they do, but sometimes the guards, or
Yeah.
There is definitely some reality to this. It's just heightened, and yeah. So yeah, then the next person they go to visit is Daisy, who.
Well, let's talk about the wheelchair guy. He's next.
Oh right, yeah.
Can we say that it's kind of funny, but it's also not funny at all. Like where he calls, I'll let you decide if we're gonna delete the. He literally calls him I'm tired of your vegetables, and shoots the guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which, yeah, I mean, like, I guess in the context of this movie, that's pretty tame, but it's still a terrible thing to say.
Yeah, and the guy's not even a vegetable. He's just a dude in a wheelchair.
Yeah. Unlike Daisy, who at this point is in a coma, like she is in a vegetative state, which doesn't, Boss isn't concerned about that. He's like, that's a good time to climb on top of her, and she won't complain.
Dwight does say, hey, can we just take her to a facility first? And then Bill's like, nah, she's got to be right here so I can do some essay right quick. Hold on.
Mm-hmm. So we get like the Kill Bill moment, like,
I'm bucking. I'm here to.
Yep. And it's again, thankfully this one they don't linger on this too long, but you definitely know what's going on, and it's fucking terrible.
Yeah.
And like Dwight is like, right before he does it, Dwight is like, I love her, I wish you wouldn't do these things to her. And Boss doesn't care. And then we just cut back to Dwight and Boss in their office. Boss is finishing off the snacks in the jar.
Well, the air conditioning finally gets fixed. And then now all of a sudden, Boss and Dwight are like chill, or Boss is chill now. And he's like, good job, guys. Thank you for taking care of that. Appreciate it.
Yeah, things are looking up, and they're standing at the window with binoculars looking out. There's like a big medical tent that's been put up in the prison yard, so they can't really even see what's going on, but they know what's going on in there, and they're just kind of watching through the binoculars. And then they decide, the governor's coming soon, and it's going to be so great, we're going to get to tell him all this, and he's going to be so proud of us. Let's play pretend and do a role play session to see how that might play out. So Dwight gets to play Boss, and Boss gets to play the governor, which gives Boss a chance to praise himself through the governor.
Right, and of course, though, Dwight's not wanting to leave this one hanging now that he's got his oomph in him, and he's like, oh yeah, but my coworker Dwight it was his idea. He was the genius who came up with this.
Yeah. Then Boss pulls a mirror down off the wall, and in another echo to the first movie, looks at himself so proudly and gives himself a big kiss in the mirror.
Right, because he has to.
Yeah, and he's like, you did it. We figured it all out. We've solved everything. It's all going to be okay.
Right, and then immediately they get a call, and Boss is like, thank you, Mr. President.
Right. But it's not the president, it's Tom Six who has arrived, or it's the guard telling them that Tom Six has arrived.
Right, and Tom just wants his recognition for coming up with the idea of ass to mouth, literally.
Yeah, is this where he says that, this is where he originally got the idea, was to punish a rapist by sewing him to a truck driver. Fat trucker,
of course, because we got to be fat phobic too.
Yeah.
That was a little bit earlier, but he kind of restates that, because he's really proud of that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Boss takes him to a guy who apparently is more than happy to be involved in the Human Centipede.
Yeah.
He's got coprophagia.
Yeah, and while they're standing there, he shits in his hand and eats it. And he's like, I can't wait. I've already been doing this, so I can't wait. And
I've been training.
And so Boss immediately pulls out his gun and shoots him, and is like, I don't want anyone liking this.
Right. Well, there it is.
Yep. And so they lead Tom into the surgical area, and we get to see some extreme close-ups of the surgeries being performed. Your entire screen is just a close-up of an asshole. You mentioned in what was Sky Sharks, there's this is not butthole time. Well, in this case, this movie is 100%. This is butthole time.
That's not going to be on one of our shirts now. This is not butthole time.
Yeah, I feel like you make the joke twice, and then it's canonical. So oops.
This is not butthole time. Well, no, as you said, this is butthole time.
And I think it's real, but then we also get them stitching then, and I think then we get a prosthetic one, but yeah, we see needle and thread going into lips and assholes, and it's very, very close. You are definitely seeing all of this play out.
Yeah, you can almost smell it.
Yeah. So then Boss is like, well, let me show you something else we're working on.
Okay, and then these motherfuckers, just as they're walking out, as Dwight and Boss are walking out, they wheel Daisy in. So you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Damn it.
But we don't see what happens there. We see in the next room, they are just sawing a guy's arm off. Tom Six is even like, this is too fucked up for me, and he vomits.
And gets the fuck out of there.
Yeah.
Probably the smartest decision he's made all movie.
Right. And so then we just cut to a little later, and we've got Boss and Dwight. Things are almost done. I think they're we've got 12 more people to sew in, and then we're all good to go.
Got one prison centipede.
And they get the call that the governor has arrived. And it's pretty great because they get a call and it seems like it's at the gate or whatever, and Boss is like, all right, send that stupid cunt in here. And it's the governor is right outside the door and hears it. And Boss is like, yeah, I was just saying how Dwight's a stupid guy.
Right.
The governor's just like, he knows what's up. Like,
and one of the best Eric Roberts lines in this is, "Why do you two assholes look so smug?"
right. He's like, yeah, I don't know why you're fired. Like, this is just a curse. You know, I knew you weren't gonna turn things around, so I'm just back here to fire you.
Right.
And Boss is like, wait, just trust us. Let me show you the progress we've made. You're going to be impressed. You're going to want to keep us around once you see what we're doing.
Yeah.
So we finally go out to the prison yard and see the Human Prison Centipede.
And this is why it's very important to have a big name like Tommy Lister, or a reasonably big name like Tommy Lister, because then you get to be the head of the Human Centipede and nowhere else.
Yeah. And this, like, it's hundreds of people long. It's like snaking around itself, filling up the whole prison yard. And the governor is obviously horrified by this and is like, what have you done? Like, this is monstrous.
Yeah.
Boss is like bragging about it, like pointing to different people, like, look, you know, this is what we're up to. And then
he revels in the fact that he ordered them in racism order, effectively, to maximize, I guess, their embarrassment / disgust with each other.
Yeah, and he even, like, he says stuff where he's like, this is like equality. Like, you know, because he's like, there's Crips next to Bloods and, you know, Muslims next to Jews, and everybody's just the same. It's all perfect.
In a weird way, yeah, I guess.
And then somewhere in the middle of there, we see Daisy.
Right, and Dwight's like, what the fuck is Daisy doing here?
Yeah, and Boss is like, well, you know, it's a gender test. We needed to see if it would work for women, too. So
what an asshole.
Yeah, she's not even a prisoner. Like, there's no reason that she should be in this at all.
No.
And, you know, she's still all, like, swollen and black-eyed and everything from being beaten by the prisoners in the riot.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just this girl is just suffering over and over again.
For no reason, basically. But, of course, Dwight then goes into how this is going to save so much money. This is going to lower medical costs. Obviously, we don't have to feed the prisoners. They're effectively feeding themselves.
Mm-hmm. We don't need as many guards. We hardly even need fences. It's not like they're going anywhere.
Yeah.
Boss is like, oh, let me show you my other idea, the human caterpillar.
Yay!
Which is like 6 or 7 guys sewn together who have no arms and no legs. So they're just like laying. It's more like a snake. I mean, there's like, it's just like kind of just laying there motionless. And those are the death row and life inmates. Like,
right. Which, once again, the life people aren't necessarily in there for life, man. They're going to get released at some point, probably.
Yeah. So they show him all that, and the governor's still like, this is too much. He's like, wait, let me show you one other thing. So they go into the infirmary, and there's a guy sitting in a hospital bed with like stitch marks around his lips. And they're like, so this guy was integrated into the centipede, but he's now reached his parole date, so we're letting him out.
So this guy was in there a max of, what, 3 days?
Yeah. Yeah, like no time at all.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. The threat was probably enough.
Mm-hmm. And I guess an hour in the Human Centipede is more than enough. But so they're like, you know, we're going to let him out, but there will be no recidivism. This guy, he's definitely not going to want to come back here and be reintegrated into the centipede. And they're like, all right, let's get his viewpoint. And then it turns out that he is Muslim and does not speak English.
Right.
So
that's another comment on, you know, social commentary right there.
Yeah, and so he's useless to them as an example to the governor because he can't tell them what he's thinking.
Right.
So then the governor is like,
this is a fucking human rights violation.
Yeah, I'm going to be ruined. You guys are going to get the death penalty. This is just going to be the end of my career. This is terrible. So he leaves.
Boss is fucking devastated.
Yeah, he's really upset. So he pulls his gun out, puts it in his mouth. He's like, or under his chin, and like he's like, you know, thinking about shooting himself. But then instead, he takes it and points it at Dwight, and he's like, "This is all your fault."
Right. Well, of course, our Dr. Jones has the. By the way, is that an Indiana Jones reference? It feels like it might be. Just saying. But he immediately has the worst timing. He's like, "Hey guys, this is great. Everything's working awesome. This is," and then he gets shot by Boss.
Yeah. He gets shot and is laying there kind of bleeding out. And then we see the governor in his car, and he's kind of like making like thinking faces. Like, what? Maybe I was too hasty. And then he just strolls back in and is like, actually, I think this might be exactly what America needs. This might be perfect.
I'll be president because of this. I don't know that that's the case, but sure.
Yeah, so he's all excited. I think he just says that and then leaves. And then Dwight's like, I'm so proud that this was my idea. This is so great. And Boss is like, yeah, I'm so proud of you. You did such a great job, Dwight. And he gives him a big hug.
This is all your idea, Dwight.
Yeah, and then we get the, like, of mice and men, where, like, while he's hugging him, he shoots him.
Okay, so how much do you know about guns, Anthony? Because I'm pretty sure that's a 45. I could be wrong.
It seems like that would have gone through him, right? And
well, one, yes, it would have absolutely gone through Dwight's skull, but also at the angle that it was right in front of Boss's face, I'm pretty sure he's at least getting KO'd, if not killed himself.
Yeah, and there's a part earlier, like there's a part earlier where I think it's the guy in the wheelchair. Boss shoots him, and
Dr.
And the
Jones
doctor,
is fine.
Yeah, he's standing right behind him, and somehow he gets blood splattered on his jacket, but somehow the bullet doesn't go through and get him.
No, it absolutely would have gone into the doctor at that point.
Yeah, so, of course, now Dwight is dead, and he, like, kind of just slumps over, and Boss puts the gun in his hand to kind of make it look like...
Frame job for Dwight.
Yeah, that Dwight has killed the doctor and then himself.
But here's the thing. As Boss is walking away, did you not pick up the doctor's feet were twitching? Like, I understand it maybe he was a death spasm, but almost was like, no, he's getting ready to get back up here in a moment.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, if it was which of those two it was either. Yeah. But yeah, you definitely see him kind of like kicking. And then we get the grand final scene of the movie, which is Boss fully naked, standing in the guard tower, yelling through his bullhorn crazily. Like, literally, he's not yelling words, right? He's just literally just yelling. Just like, looking down at this human centipede, and then the national anthem starts playing. And that's, every one of these movies has ended with some sort of weird thing playing over the credits. And in this case, it's the national anthem, which that was the one thing that I was like, okay, yes, you nailed it. That was the way to end this. Yep. That's perfect.
I tell you, Top 6 knows how to start and end a movie.
True.
It's the middle part that I have questions about.
Yeah, the beginning and the end of the centipede is great, but...
that middle sketchy.
Yeah, so, if you're somebody who looks for any kind of subtext, and it's not hard to see where he's going with this, what he's talking about. Incarcerated people are treated like cattle and inhuman, and there's this constant thing of, like, can we serve them cheaper, worse food, like if we can make them live on 75 cents a day or whatever, then the prison is more profitable and
prison industrial complex and all that good stuff.
Yeah, like if you have watched like Orange is the New Black, there's a lot of that in there. There are ways to comment on this that don't involve this level of just brutality and just racial slurs and misogyny and everything.
It could have been handled better is what we're saying.
Yeah. Like, it's a strange thing to say that I think Human Centipede 3 has a positive message in it. It does not execute on it well at all. I feel like the average Human Centipede 3 fan is probably the person who's like, I hate when people try to mix politics with horror movies.
Not realizing.
Yeah. This movie is something that you just kind of suffer through. Like, I don't expect that I will ever be watching this one again.
No. Like, the first one, yes. The second one, maybe. This one, no. This is hopefully the final time I have to see this movie.
Yeah, I'm really sorry I made you watch it a second time.
No, I did this to myself. It's fine.
I can't imagine there's anybody who is like on the fence about this and is going to be won over to watch this by listening to us talk about it. Like, I could not recommend it. Like, I think anything worthwhile that you might get out of this movie, you will have gotten from us talking about it.
Yeah.
And you get to dodge all of the terrible stuff. Or you're still having to hear us talk about it, but at least you're not having to see it.
Listen, to be fair, we've cut out a lot. So... Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we have definitely glossed over more in this than any other movie we talked about, just because there's just so much terrible shit.
Yeah, this is the first movie I think we can easily say, like, don't watch it. Just listen to us.
Yeah.
This is not self-promotion. This is for you. This is not for us.
Yeah.
Now, if people actually saw it and liked it, I'm worried.
Yeah.
But, I'm open to your opinions.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the only way I could imagine anybody liking this is if they really... Well, I mean, in a positive way liking it is, seeing the message here and being like, if we're going to live in a society that treats people like this, maybe sometimes we should have to suffer through a really gruesome portrayal of it so that we know how awful it is. Yes. But outside of that, there's not much to redeem this one.
No. I think that's pretty much it. That's all we have to say about it.
Yeah, that covers everything I can say about it.
You know what I'm glad for, and I never thought I would ever say this. I'm glad to be watching a Hotel Transylvania movie next week.
Yeah.
We need that.
Yeah, even a straight-to-streaming fourth movie in a animated series is going to be a welcome reprieve from what we've just watched.
Amen.
So yeah, join us next week for that Human
Transylvania.
Yeah, Hotel Transylvania for Transformania.
Yeah, dun dun dun. All right, Anthony, where can they find us?
So you can find us on all the socials at The Frankencast. You can email us at thefrankencast@gmail.com. I'm sure some people might have some things to say after having suffered through these three with us. So
we understand.
We'd love to hear from you. If you think this was a great idea or a terrible idea, we'd love to talk to you about it. You can also find us on YouTube, and you can also join us over at patreon.com/thefrankencast, where we're now offering free 1-week trials. So yeah, you can jump in,
try it before
join
you buy
for
it.
free. Yeah. And that's a week that there's like 50-ish episodes. If you want to get real crazy, you could binge through the whole catalog for free.
If you're crazy.
Yeah. Or you could at least get a good sampling of what we do over there and see if it's right for you.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff in there, so we definitely encourage you checking it out.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, well, in that case, to be continued! I had to do it like Dieter.
Looks like you survived another episode. The Frankencast is a production of FCR Media. It's hosted by Anthony Bowman and Eric Velasquez. Follow us on Twitter at The Frankencast, or send us a letter at thefrankencast@gmail.com. Our cover art is by Amanda Keller. You can find her at Keller Illustrations on Instagram. Our theme music is by Vivek Abhishek. Thanks for listening.